Hi, my name is Jarno and I'm your event tutor. My YouTube channel is all about teaching you how to plan and organize an event or festival. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel or leave a comment below. But first, enjoy this video.
My name is Joseph Pred, and I'm the founder and CEO of Mutual Aid Response Services and Mutual Aid Risk and Safety, an organization that provides emergency resources and risk and safety services for temporary mass gatherings, predominantly in the US, but to a limited extent internationally as well. A bit about my background. I've worked in a wide variety of roles with festivals, including that of safety officer, emergency manager, and chief of public safety, with events such as Burning Man and Glastonbury and other major international events. My work with festivals predominantly is in two different areas: risk and safety and emergency management. When I'm working with emergency management, I'm generally overseeing fire, medical, mental health, emergency communications, as well as functioning as a liaison to public safety agencies and law enforcement. When I'm working in a health and safety risk management role, I'm usually working with the event management team to provide advisory services on various risks, to do planning and risk assessments, as well as working operationally to reduce risks that are emergent, as well as post-incident investigations. Not all countries require risk assessments as part of the planning and permitting process. However, you should consider them a best practice and integrate them into all aspects of event management, because they will create the best and safest environment for your staff and your attendees. Risk assessments are primarily done anytime there is any sort of safety or exposure risk. They can be done for an almost infinite number of things on the event site, and it's almost easy to become overwhelmed if you start thinking about the different kinds of risk assessments you could be doing. However, part of the risk assessments is to focus on the most significant risks that you want to manage, and to work on those first and foremost. Risk assessments can be used for a wide variety of applications, and it's easy when you first start looking at them to be overwhelmed at the sheer number that you might need to properly document your entire event. However, if you focus on the most significant risks to begin with and look at it as a library that you're building over time, as you write more and more over the years and review and update them, after a while you'll build a complete library of the foreseeable risks that you're managing at your event. Different types of risks can be those strictly for staff, such as occupational noise exposure, or the risk involved with unloading trucks that might be involved in touring production, for example. Or they can also be strictly for the public, such as how to safely evacuate an area in the event of fire or other incident. So when considering doing risk assessments, first and foremost, you need to check to see what the requirements are locally for your area where the event is taking place. Second, you need to assess your insurance requirements and also the level of risk adversity that the owners of the event want to engage in. The more conservative you are in either of those areas, the more risk assessments you're going to want to do to ensure that you create the greatest safety for the staff and attendees of your event. One way you can do this is to outsource that to a health and safety advisor who can do this for you, so that you do not have to be involved in the process, other than answering questions and providing them the information in order for them to complete their job. But I recommend that you are directly involved in the process and learn by being involved in crafting the documentation, not only so you understand your risk assessments better, but so that you understand risk management. These days, regardless of how small your event is, you need to consider what first aid and medical resources you have on site. Partially because in most cases it's a requirement, but also because it's a best practice to create a safe environment for your staff and attendees. For the health and safety of your employees and staff, you should have a small medical team on site providing first aid and to support staff in case of injury while the build is going on, especially considering that many events you're talking about heavy machinery, you're talking about power tools, you're talking about lifting heavy objects. The risk for injury can be quite high, especially if you're on a compressed timeline and people are working long hours and are becoming fatigued, which affects their judgment, which increases the risk for injury prior to the event. Since long hours and fatigue not only affect the risk for injury, but also the general health and welfare of your employees in general, it's really important that you consider in your planning process that you plan for the unexpected and you plan for appropriate breaks and rest time for staff. That way, when the unexpected happens, if you have budgeted extra time for those unexpected things, your staff will be able to accommodate that without extending themselves to a point that would be unwise. Now, of course, you can't always plan for every contingency, but by budgeting in an amount of time for all staff to handle the unexpected, you create a less stressful work environment and hopefully a better outcome in terms not only of safety, but also in terms of the quality of the event that you're producing. One of the more difficult considerations is determining the right amount of staff needed for your event. Now, documents like the UK or the US event safety guides can provide you with formulas for certain types of events. But it's not just the size of the event that you have to take into consideration. There are a number of other factors that you need to consider, such as how remote is the event compared to other available resources or the distance required to get to the nearest hospital. What is the demographics in terms of age? What kind of entertainment is happening? Is alcohol being served? Are there other hazardous activities happening that put event participants at risk, such as swimming or other physical activities that would require you to have more resources spread out over the area? Or is the size of the event small enough that a few central facilities could serve all the attendees? So you have to look at it with a variety of considerations, and your vendor could be a key ally in helping to develop the appropriate number of staff, which is another one of the reasons why you want to bring them in early enough to develop that in a way that feels satisfactory to you, both from a safety standpoint, but also from a budgetary standpoint. For the budgetary consideration of health and safety at events, no matter how much you spend on emergency resources as well as safety mitigation on site, keep in mind that you can never 100% eliminate all the risk. You want to keep a balance between safety, cost, and the overall intention to maintain a safe event for the general public. Oftentimes, health and safety and emergency managers are speaking directly with a senior manager in the event, coordinating directly with them. Usually that person has a senior operations role. This is to maintain a clear line of communication with the event organizers and to allow a good level of collaboration. That level of communication shifts, however, during the event. It's recommended that you have a central dispatch location that manages all communication on site through radio. They would be the conduit for which notifications and communication happens on site. And each event communicates a little bit differently, but given that the senior organizers will have a lot of different demands, setting an expectation in advance what types of incidents and the degree of severity involved that the senior event organizers want to be notified of will help set expectations so that after the event, the event management team isn't surprised by an incident that happened that they were not aware of. Most event medical companies will handle all their own logistics on site in terms of supplies and equipment. However, they will normally expect that you will provide a space, either if it's in a building, a dedicated room, if it's outside, a tent that is equipped with power and hand washing stations, as well as its own bathrooms for patients that you want to keep separate from those that are available to the public for health and safety reasons, as well as access to water and trash removal. A common question that is given to emergency managers is, what are some of the most common injuries that might be experienced on site? And the truth is that the majority of injuries that you see on site are essentially basic first aid, almost something that your mom could take care of when you were a kid. Band-aids and medicines for headaches and other minor ailments such as that. And that can comprise the majority of what you see on site. But then the rest becomes highly dependent on the environment, environmental issues such as heat, cold. If it's an outdoor green fields, then you've got risks for slips and falls and musculoskeletal injuries. So it really depends on the environment that you're in. So working with the venue will give you the best possible idea of the types of injuries that you can expect. And it's always good to make sure that your medical provider is already familiar with the venue and the risk associated with the venue. When considering a medical team, you should be looking at an organization that has become specialized in temporary mass gatherings and events. Medicine has become very specialized, and most ambulance crews are not necessarily your best resource for events. They are a fantastic resource for stabilizing and transporting victims off your event site, but they are not always the best resource for handling injuries on site, because the intention is to treat and release on site, something that isn't part of the normal protocols of ambulance providers. However, ambulances are a key part of the safety net that you provide for your participants and staff. And depending on your local jurisdiction, you may be required to have one for a specific ratio of attendees. However, a good rule of thumb to consider is you should have one advanced life support ambulance per 10,000 attendees. Some of the best practices for public safety is to ensure strong communication between all the involved supporting agencies that have any role in safety. So be that security, law enforcement, medical, fire, public health. The better these organizations can communicate with each other on site and in the planning process, the better the outcome will be for them to coordinate on site during the event. Another best practice to consider is that while you may be using volunteers for other support functions, that even if they are licensed and qualified as security or medical, that you should instead have all staffing managed through your vendors rather than using individual volunteers. Not only may they not be properly insured, but having them in a volunteer capacity, you may not get the same level of performance as a coordinated vendor might be able to provide. Another best practice that's becoming prevalent in today's festival environment are harm reduction services that are integrated with security and medical. Harm reduction can be done both as a passive aspect of your planning as well as an active resource on site. The passive resources that you have available is ensuring that there's an adequate supply of free water for people that, due to environmental reasons or drinking or even drug use, have an ability to stay hydrated and cool when they're exerting themselves from dancing or just from being exposed to the elements in a outdoor festival environment. Additionally, if you have a smaller venue where the intensity of the crowd is more dense and more intense than a wider, more open area, you should consider having cool down or chill areas for people to come and get away from the intensity, and they can have a chance to sort of cool off, just having some fresh air if it's an enclosed venue versus the heat that might be developing inside of there. So working with the venue becomes very important to develop those kinds of passive strategies. Harm reduction services can also include handing out earplugs, and if the public health department in your area is in support of it, you can work with them to hand out information about responsible drinking and information about other drugs that may be legal now that they're becoming legal in more parts of the world, so that users who may be exposed to drugs and alcohol either because they're younger or because they're just being exposed to it for other reasons have an opportunity to make more informed choices about what they're choosing to do recreationally. Regarding drug use at festivals, regardless if you're in a jurisdiction where certain types of drugs are legal or if you're in a country where drug use is both legally and culturally frowned upon, the fact is that when large groups of people come together to celebrate, oftentimes intoxicants are a part of that. And it's really no different than a city in any part of the world. There are going to be some people that choose to attend and celebrate while being sober. Other people are going to choose to do so legally, and other people are going to choose to do so using recreational drugs. Now, it is the best practice to assume that recreational drug use is going to be part of the attendees participating in your event and planning accordingly. Even if you don't personally support drug use, it's important that you plan for it so that should there be any kind of medical emergencies, you are organizationally prepared for it, but also doing the best possible practice for maintaining the health and welfare of your attendees. Here's a tip for you if you're a brand new event manager. A common mistake made early in the careers of many event managers is involving public safety organizations and outside agencies very late in the process, sometimes just days or weeks before the event is to happen, leaving inadequate time to plan and coordinate effectively. You should be reaching out to those organizations as soon as you have a date confirmed with the venue and you have your permits in place, so that you can have the best possible chance of providing a comprehensive safety net for your staff and attendees.
Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Jarno, your event tutor. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and do check out my other videos. See you next time.